if you have a vision and there's a product market fit, go for it, man. Just go for it. You got nothing to lose except
Yeah,
time. And
I
I
love it.
feel like at least try. At least try.
All right, here we go, Jacques. We're live. Welcome to another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast. And community members, we're excited to have another episode here. We're diving in today into the golf world, specifically with Twisted Sports. It's a fan-driven sports network and entertainment that will soon be taking over the media world. And we're excited to have Jacques join us today. Thanks for being here today, Jacques.
I appreciate it, sir. I'm happy to be on here and chat a little bit what we're up to in 26.
Jacques is a co-founder of Twisted Sports, and like I said, building the first fan-driven sports entertainment network. And so today we're going to talk about sports media, obviously Twisted Sports, what it's like kind of giving the fans their own, really their own model, their own business to kind of create. And
It's overdue. It's overdue.
yeah, no doubt. I guess let's just start there, Jacques. So why is it overdue? What's the goal of Twisted Sports?
Look, I've been in the production world for a really long time. I'm absolutely obsessed with golf, and what originally was Twisted Golf Co. has now kind of emerged into Twisted Sports. But I always feel, especially in participatory sports, that the fans obsess over it. We spend so much money playing the sports, we spend so much time watching it, but rarely has there been anything that allows the fans to engage with the platforms and allow the fans to have input and allow the fans to have ownership. I think the Green Bay Packers is a great example where their fans own the NFL team. But if we look at a lot of different sports across the range of sports, including golf, it's a top down approach where the networks and the creators and everybody really do a really good job of supporting the sport, but never giving the fans a say. I saw that through my whole network experience, shouting from the rooftops, like, let's go ask them. Like, why not? I always looked at it as, okay, you'll have this like focus groups where we pitch ideas and it's like 30 people. I'm like, why don't we just do that at scale? Why don't we ask the people that are obsessed with the sports they play and spend and watch about what they want? And I got shut down a lot. Like, no, why would we give them? They don't know anything. And it was like, eh. So, that was kind of the precipice for starting, what we did with Twisted Golf Co. But a funny thing happened was that when we took Twisted Golf Co. to the launch, I got started reaching out by so many sports, like sports leagues, really important people in those sports. Like, listen, why is this just golf? Like, this is something that can pertain in this participatory sport, in this like, really our focus is on sports that we can play. That's our key factor, and we won't really delve away from that. But and that's really where it all started. And we started to go to market with Twisted Sports, which is really the umbrella, but still a high focus in the year or just on golf and launching with golf.
I see. So, excuse me, it was more golf, and then as you got more feelers out, people were saying, "Hey, this sport," it was said, "Okay, Twisted Sports will
Yeah,
kind of revolve."
absolutely. So we got reached out to by surfing leagues.
Oh, wow,
We
okay.
got reached out to by some big names in action sports. Obviously paddle is exploding, in its own kind of area. Combat, outdoors was a big one. Obviously, 66 million people fish every
No
year in the
kidding.
States,
Wow.
which is a large number of people. And the really the underserved participatory sports is where our bread and butter lies. We're not going to try and compete with the big sports.
Yeah.
Baseball, NFL, they're monsters. They're great. They're the culture of the U.S. And but I think there's some really niche sports that are big enough and have enough obsessed fans where they want to have a say. They
Yeah.
really.
Is that what you've seen throughout building the community base as far as the fans and the ownership? Kind of what would that look like for a fan if they become a said owner in one of these teams or in one of these models?
True ownership. They'll own a part of the company. It's almost like we have an IPO out there. But they will have not just a seat at the table. The table was built for them, So it's basically they're running the company with us, and they're earning in everything we do. They're experiencing everything we do, and their input is just as valuable as every C-suite member we have. I am of the extremely strong opinion that the community is greater than the one, and there's so many good ideas out there from people that obsess about this that necessarily don't want to be entrepreneurs. We have an entrepreneur as a subset of somebody that wants to build something, but that disqualifies the other 90% who love their 9 to 5 jobs, love what they're doing, but man, do they have good ideas because they live it. Everybody has their unique story, and I'm very strongly opinionated that no matter who you are, what network, the masses are a lot smarter than the few. Now, that being said, it's our job as creatives and knowing the business and shows to give them the structure to play with.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Yeah, we are experts in reality TV. We love what we do. We are really good at what we do, and it's building those frameworks for them to play in, and help us build, and have them pitch us ideas and know how to frame it, know how to turn it into entertainment, know how to monetize it. That's behind the scenes. Our business and what we do is full of really smart people, but a company is, I believe, only as good as its ideas, and those ideas, we go to the fans, and they are the executive producers, the architects of our merch, and eventually owners.
Exciting. I want to talk a little bit about the merch. So is that more for like the league or the teams themselves? Just kind of all the above?
Yeah. So I mean, look, it's I don't see us growing into a league. A lot more reality TV shows. Obviously per show. And we have 12 franchise shows, reality TV shows slated for 26. But yes, essentially we will have capsules for each show that we'll give them ideas. We'll put them with lead designers and like, hey, what does this look like? Should we do a polo? Should we do a hat? What does this design look like? So they'll be very interactive, and we want them to be proud of the products we put out there, and share that with their friends and family. So it's really using the fans' passion to drive everything from merch to the shows.
Right, and as you mentioned, using the fans' passion, and then having that straight into the shows or the merch or whatever the ideas are. You mentioned you have 12 slated for 26, so kind of walk us through, obviously without spilling the tea, but walk us through, what it was like getting those 12 on board, slated. I'm sure you had to start over and restart, and getting into.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at really what are some of the best reality TV formats in outside of sports. Obviously reality TV has been along for a really long time.
Yep.
And there are great shows that have, great formats. Our show formats is looking at that formats and how can we turn them into sports. Now, sports has been great on documentaries. There are beautiful documentaries. We do not have to do another sports documentary because they are covered. What there is a massive, gap for real fun competition shows, as well as lifestyle shows. So, yeah, we looked at what's out there. There's 20, 30, 40 of the top, and how can we take those and integrate them into now golf for the first year? Right. And, we're very excited to share it when the time is right. We have some amazing partners on board, from the LPGA and the Epson Tour, and, some great distribution partners. So they believe in it, which was like really the key thing, that's what we needed. We needed the market to respond to the ideas, and it did 10x what we imagined it would do, in terms of just the market response, because these are the people that, when you start the business, a network's only as good as its distribution, or the studio is only as good as the distribution. We knew we needed to solve that puzzle first, but I'm super excited about the franchises. They'll start rolling out in February, and then it's time to build with the fans.
Yeah, looking forward to it here in a few months. And I always like to ask, the founders and entrepreneurs, everyone has like this idea, but then until you get feedback of, oh wow, this is actually this might work. So what was that moment like? You mentioned kind of the distributors saying, hey, and then the market research. Were there any other moments that you guys were sitting there and people were said, this is a good idea, let's keep rolling?
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at who's in your market and who's the players, who are the movers and shakers that actually move the needle. And it could be an organization, it could be a distributor, it could be talent, in entertainment. But for us specifically, we knew who we needed to get this in front of to get their feedback, create the partnerships and cement it. And we're very fortunate that the ones we went after all responded exactly the same way. And like, hey, sports need this, not just in golf, but in, all over the place. I think the building in public thing is we bring that to a new life. And yes, of course, there's a lot of learnings we're going to have to go through, but the market feedback we got from, the people that we would need to make this successful was everything we needed to like really throw gas, on the fire and really push forward and make this happen.
Got it. And then I'm sure that's a lot has to do with, like you said, who the market is, what they're saying, adjust your approach and go through there. And I guess as you guys were building, what did it look like on like a capital raise side and investor side, kind of finding the right strategic partners? It plays a big role, especially when companies are first starting out.
Yeah, look, the first thing I needed to do was find the audience, right? Like, because especially without the audience, it's nothing. And I knew that with us launching from zero, we needed to find and somebody else's audience that we could plug into. So it was months of LinkedIn messages and personal phone calls until we found the right partner, which we'll announce, when we launch. But they're worldwide, and that was the first step, because without it, I could not go to investors or brands, which kind of like is the model of the business, and be like, hey, look at us. The first question they're going to ask is, who's going to see it? You're starting at zero. And I'd be like, well, yeah, okay, I don't know. So luckily, we have a couple of unique advantages, and that's, we've lived in the golf space. So we have, I would say, 30 of the top 50 creators that we've worked with that we will activate with. I needed to get those pieces in the puzzle to know how we're going to make this product work. Where is it going to be seen? Right. And not bank on our own channels, because that will grow with time. So once we got that, then it was like, okay, now it's a complete story for investors. Now it's a complete story for their brand. So that gave us the confidence to then, obviously you start out with your friends and family of like, hey, your internal networks of, hey, like, what do you guys think? And we did that successfully enough to give us everything we need to get to, into our seed rounds. And that's when it becomes tricky, because as a first-time founder, I've run businesses before, successfully, unsuccessfully, but I did not know, the intrinsic nature of how hard it is to raise money when you don't have the institutional knowledge of what the investors are looking for. And really surrounding myself with people that have done it successfully and not thinking, because there's so many structures, there's so many things you need to have in place for investors to take you seriously, from something as simple as how your company is structured. What's the basic MO of the layout of your company. I had to learn what term sheets are and, subscription agreements and cap tables and the work. So I really took a lot of time in educating myself and reaching out to people that have done it successfully and just asking them like, hey, can I take you to lunch? Can I hop on a call with you? I wasn't scared of the no. And if there's any advice, is like, don't be scared to be rejected, because you will get rejected a lot. A lot, but if you're batting, 100, like 1 out of 10, great.
Yeah, you just need that one.
Just need that one. And don't be scared of rejection, because it happens. And it's not, a lot of the times it was never nasty rejection. Like, oh, this is like, people aren't really like that. It's more like, hey, I'm just not interested. And that's okay. Right. Yeah. You have to be used to that as you build. But yeah, as we kind of like moved into the seed round, for me, it was partnering and bringing people on board on a temporary basis, or a fractional basis that have raised, which
Right.
was key for us. That know how to do it, that know the networks. This is a people's game. You can have a great idea, but if you don't have the ins and the right people speed up your raise and your ability to raise by 10x.
No
Like
doubt.
it's just a fact. So partnering with the right people, getting us in front of the right people that are in your area, because there are 100 different types of investors, and throwing the widest net you can out there is, in my opinion, not the right strategy, because
Yeah.
I can prove it. It's finding the people that invest in your area and finding in people that invest in the stage you're at and going after them and meeting them and, building relationships.
No doubt. I think like you mentioned a lot of great points there, but I think finding kind of your right lane, not just casting a net out to, 500 VCs or whatever and saying, hey, I need some money. That's, half of them are gonna be like, that's just, I'm not even into sports. I hate sports, right?
Yeah,
So then it's
exactly.
just a waste of time at that point. But as you continue building out these verticals and the ownership models and things, I was curious to get your take on kind of like the creator-led communities within golf and sports. And I feel like we've been seeing a pretty drastic rise over the past few years. So yeah, where do you see that going? Do you see it get stagnating, or do you see it continuing to rise?
Our co-founder is a creator, and she has 400, 500,000 followers on social. Gabby Powell. If you guys don't follow her, go follow Gabby Powell.
Shout out, Gabby.
Shout out Gabby. It's an interesting world. It's very interesting, and I think only one of the few sports where it seems like the amateurs are more famous than the professionals.
Yeah.
You can name the top 10 in the world. Past that, it's kind of like blurry unless you're really obsessed. But more than often, if I meet golf fans, they can tell you the top 20, 30 creators. I think where it's headed is, I don't want to say it's peak at the bottom. Who knows? The fact is, I know that some of these top creators sells more product for their brands than the professionals do. So they're validated. These guys and ladies know what they're doing. They're important to the game. It's about, for me, saturation. It's about you usually had fit. Now it's just massive list. And I think if you don't differentiate yourself, if you don't have a unique audience build that will follow you wherever you go, that fandom, that really obsessiveness that we talk about in our model for what we're doing, you're going to struggle, because it's going to be, who knows where the next 3-4 years lie in terms not just of audience, but most of these creators depend on brand deals. That they depend on those kind of things to do what they do. With AI popping in and a lot of other things, I see smaller creators struggling unless they have a way and they really dive into, their obsessive fans. Because I can tell you something, I've seen people in case studies with 5,000 followers, but 4,000 of them are obsessed. They make multiple six figures from those 4,000 people. It's not about scale. It's about owning your audience and, having them come along with you regardless what happens. If, if it's just a quick pass by and you don't have that one-on-one relationship, I think some creators might struggle. The upper echelon, the 100K plus for most of them, like Gabby and some of them like Grant Horvat and, you name it, they've done a brilliant job of, having obsessed fans.
Yeah.
I think what they need to do is to continue that and to make sure that their touch points with their fans, remain authentic. Don't take anything for granted. Go out, meet the people, shake their hands, doesn't matter, because that umbrella spreads. So I'm very positive about, golf entertainment and golf content. We got, good coming out with the big break in August, and it's kind of proves our model of, the market wants reality sports TV. I think our products and what we're launching are, I don't want to say they're going to be better, but they're going to be better because I think we live at the intersection of sports drama entertainment. I think one thing that some sports have gotten wrong, especially when competition, it's kind of built like a Pro Bowl, right? Like nobody really wants to watch the Pro Bowl. You watch it because people in it, but it's all fluffy.
Yep.
My idea is to bring in shows that feel like real sports, like live sports, right? So people are engaging. We are seeing the intensity from them. not just, laughing around and having fun. Of course, that's important, but it's a lot more about, let's call it live sports entertainment reality. So I'm very positive about the golf industry because otherwise I wouldn't be building this into golf. But it's, who knows? We're open for a ride in the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to it, and I think there's a lot of fun stories to come out of this. As you said, you guys are launching here in a few months, and I was curious. I always like to get founders and their thoughts and opinions on when they have stable jobs, they're working in the normal sector, and then they say, all right, I'm going to jump ship, I'm going to go create my own thing. So what was like your genesis of? I know you mentioned you were screaming from the rooftop saying we need to get the fans involved, and the fans involved. Is that what you just said? I see the market, and it's time to jump in.
Yes. And to be honest, I wish I took it a little bit more slower than I did, because you don't know what the timelines of these, things can take. It might take 3 months and you hit and you're off to the races. But having something to fall back on and starting it with, take weekends, take nights, then take 1 day, 2 days. I kind of went all in, but it's hard. With building it, you feel like you take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And your day starts off great, full of energy. I'm going to rock the world. By the end of the day, you're probably in tears by like just all the things that are thrown at you. And that's just, that's truthful. That's especially, in the beginning, it's generally just you. You have the passion for it. You have the vision for it. It's making other people believe. And it's growing that room of believers, and then the stadium of believers, and then the states of believers, and the country, But it's not easy, and you need to take, you need to have a lot of grace for yourself. Make sure you don't lock yourself in a room for 14 hours a day, and go out, live a life a little, get some exercise, because if you're obsessed about it, you can open up your eyes and your whole world around you has dissipated. But it's a balance between those, because it does take tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
Nonstop daily grind, but find a little bit of time to not blow out all your relationships, which you can go look up any founder story, and they kind of have the similar story of I worked 18 hours a day, and then you look up, I have 2 kids, and I really try to focus on being away from work as best as I could, and paying attention to what I need to, and the loved ones around me. But if you have a vision and there's a product market fit, go for it, man. Just go for it. You got nothing to lose except time. And I feel like at least try. I
love it. As you've been building out kind of this entrepreneurship journey, what skills or kind of habits have you, I guess, figured out? Like, I need to do these, I need to do this every day, I need to be reading, I need to be writing, something like that.
Yeah. So it's kind of morphed over time. I generally thought like, okay, let's do what I need to do today, and like have a daily routine. For me, it doesn't work, because if you're not flexible in the startup game and your ability to react to certain things, like if an investor calls, hey, can you meet me for this and this and this 2 hours, like you go, and then what happens is, if you don't do what you said you do, you start to like, oh shit, I didn't do this. Yeah. What I figured out, a great formula for me, is like, look at weekly checkpoints, because a week you can generally fit everything in. You're flexible. If you miss something the one day, you can catch it up the next. So I just look at week by week and say, okay, this week, these are the 3 or 4 things I need to do to really move this business forward. My brain works a little differently. I can focus on one thing for 3 to 4 to 5 hours, no problem. But if I have 20 things to do for that day, my brain goes bust, and I end up not doing anything because my brain gets so scrambled. I found like one big work block of 5 hours, one thing to focus on during that time that really moves the needle, and rinse and repeat. In the afternoons, I set up for calls and things I have to do with people, but one thing at a time. And you kind of just stack the stones along the way, and all of a sudden you've kind of built the temple. So that, and exercise, get out, move,
touch some grass,
be in nature. I don't, if it's a 10-minute walk, if it's, I try to walk like 2 to 3 times a day. just to go get some fresh air. And, some of the best ideas come to you when you step away and you like just let your brain calm down a bit. Yeah. So one focuses per week really worked well for me.
And I think it's so interesting to hear people's, viewpoints, because I feel like nowadays, especially with social media, you can hear someone say like, you got to do this, this, and this in order to be successful. This is like the only way to do it. But really, there's hundreds of ways to be successful.
There are absolutely, and please, don't fall into the thing that you have to do. Have your non-negotiables. Have your non-negotiables that you do every day. If it's taking 5 minutes, I just can't seem to be in the rhythm where like, okay, wake up at 4, write in my journal, do this, because I wake up different every day. Sometimes you're sore from work, whatever, and it's like, I'm not gonna be down on myself just because I didn't. But there are, a couple of things that are just your non-negotiables. Like for me, like you said, touch grass every day. If that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, great. Those little things will start to add up, and because it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of discipline to build something, and a lot of willpower. And you kind of have to do what you say. So don't make that mountain too big to climb. Like little steps by steps.
I love it. Yeah, it's kind of, you kind of firing me up here. I'm getting ready to rock and roll. As we kind of start to wrap up here, Jacques, I was curious as far as the golf industry goes. You have a favorite golfer, favorite golf course? What's your favorites?
Yes, I do have a favorite golf course. I've been very fortunate enough to play a golf course called a Hoopy Match Play Club. It's in the middle of nowhere, Georgia.
Okay.
I loved it because it did not have tees. So you're forced to play match play with your partners, and then if you win the hole, you get to pick the next tee box. And you can tee it up in the middle of the fairway, or every hole is like stretched out to kind of be like a par 3, par 4, par 5.
Okay.
But the vibes were just immaculate, and I played with a great bunch of people. But I will say, I will prefer the local muni with the right type of people than any private fancy course. For me, it's about connection and fun and music and the works. Favorite golfer, I'm gonna be. Obviously I grew up the massive Tiger fan. I will always be a Tiger fan. That's just it. Like that mentality. It's funny. I think about him a lot with kind of like the mentality to bounce back and the ultimate focus. And I might have stolen some of his attributes as a golfer to enter into some of our shows.
Yeah.
And the challenges they will face. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. We're excited. We appreciate you coming on today, Jacques. And as we close out here, like I said, looking forward to following along the journey and kind of build a new golf ownership model in the world. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you guys later.
I appreciate it.
You got it.